every day. She's a graduate of the Studian School for Spiritual Direction, and she offers one-on-one direction and silent retreats shaped by her years in ministry and her own journey of faith. And used to work with Terwilliger, so kind of we first met at pastoral things when Greenfield and Terwilliger would get together. So kind of I met her originally there, but then also in the spring, Greenfield staff, we did a silent retreat, and we kind of had Anne host us throughout the day of silence and led us all through that. At home, Anne finds joy in baking sourdough, walking her little dog Molly, and tending backyard chickens. I didn't know that about you. She and her husband Greg recently celebrated 26 years of marriage and love spending time with their 3 children and 2 future daughter-in-laws. Another random fact about Anne is that 21 years ago, this October, she was baptized here at Greenfield. You didn't attend Greenfield, did you attend? It's just like you used the baptism.
Terwilliger used
Yeah. You know, I have been an EV person my whole life. I can't believe Terwilliger's over 21 years old. And like, it makes sense that it's like that old, but I just feel like Terwilliger started yesterday. But I guess I've been around a long time. And EV world.
22 years.
Yeah, there you go. Look at me being a teenager at that point. So this is Anne, and she's here to talk to us about Come Away With Me, God's invitation for us all. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Well, thanks for forging downstairs, letting go of your comfy spot that you had found upstairs, and coming to talk with me a little bit about silence and solitude. I just, one of the things I often do before I speak is I just lay before the Lord, Lord, this is what I want to talk about today. Do you have anything else that you would like to say? So I kind of look at it like a little bit of a dangerous activity, because then I feel obliged to report what I hear or sense that Jesus is saying to me. So this morning, as I sat there and did that, one of the pictures that Jesus showed me was something that I'm going to actually ask us to stand up and be engaged in a physical activity with our bodies. I was given this picture of union with Christ when I was on my last silent retreat. And so, Jen, would you mind? I know you sort of, so I'm just going to invite you, if you don't mind, coming up here for just a second, because I'm just going to I'm going to model this picture of union that I felt with Jesus. And I think we're all probably familiar with the passage where God is the trunk of the vine and we are the branches. And so this picture that was given to me, do you mind just putting your hands out, was of union, was of this picture of me standing with Jesus, and I am unified with him. He's holding me securely, and we're looking at each other face to face. This is my picture when I'm trying to think of what does it look like to be in union with Christ. This is it. So I want you guys to all have the opportunity to do that with a person maybe that you know or don't know. And just everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. So we do, everybody, one person put your arms out like this, and then one person come below their elbows, really get a good grip on their elbows. Yeah, that's great. Perfect. And now I want you to just do the very, very awkward thing in our culture, and that is look into each other's eyes. I'm only going to make you do it for 3 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Great. Great. Now just say thank you for doing that with you. And
I'm good, right? Yes, I'm fine.
There's always one in every crowd. So one just object lesson I want you to learn from that experience is we learn a lot of things in our heads. Lots and lots of knowledge are given to us. And this is actually something that is very, very prevalent in Baptist circles. Being raised in this Baptist world, we use a lot of words. But I think Jesus' invitation to us is how can we get some of those real truths down into our bodies? So as much as you can, experience things in the Christian world with God. And I hope that this picture, you about, or get maybe preached to you about again, about union with God. All right, thanks for that. So today we are going to be talking about this topic, and I really love Whitty's encouragement to us to just land ourselves in the place that we now find ourselves, which is here now. So let's just repeat that pattern of just taking a moment to breathe deeply, and I'm going to read this passage over you from the Message. So let's just close our eyes for a moment. Breathe deeply in for the count of 4. And breathe out for the count of 4. And one more time. Breathe in for the count of 4. And breathe out. I want you to hear this invitation from Jesus to you today. Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. And I'm just going to read that for us one more time. Is there a word in there that sticks out for you today? Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Okay, and I'll just invite you now to open your eyes and find yourself landed here. So I do have a question for you. What is your first thought when I tell you that I just came back from a 7-day silent retreat? I've heard a number of replies over the years when I've told people that. The number one response, I could never do that. Usually it's followed up with something like, I like to talk too much. I don't like being alone. I'm scared, is what I hear below that. So I want to encourage you today that if your response was anything other than, I want to do that, then I encourage you to just open a very small but significant space in your mind that you could, maybe even should, or at least maybe able to do that. So my goal today is simple. It is to testify to you all, to stand before you in the presence of our Lord and Savior, that when I enter the quiet and the solitary places, Jesus is faithful. This has been my own experience again and again, and it's something that I've also seen in the lives of countless other people. When we dare to step away from the noise and the rhythms of our everyday lives, He shows up. I am not here today to focus on the why questions of why we should enter silence and solitude. Whitty is going to do, I'm sure, an awesome job talking about that in our last session. But today I want to address the how questions with you. So if you have decided, or you do decide at some point in the future to enter into a silence and solitude space, what are you going to do there? What is that going to look like? I want to help give you a practical picture of how you could enter into that time. So I want to address questions like, what helps make it meaningful? What do you do when the silence feels uncomfortable? So that is what I want to explore with you, the practical, grace-filled how-to of meeting Jesus in the quiet. So there's a really interesting woman named Catherine Daugherty, and she wrote a book called Christinia, and I may be botching that name terribly, but she is a person who grew up in eastern Russia, in a small town. And she immigrated to America, and she actually founded the Madonna House. But she talks a lot about this idea of a pustinia, and a pustinia in Russian culture, as far as I've learned from her, is a small hut, if you can imagine, in the middle of various towns in Russia. And people that lived in that culture would take turns going to stay in the pustinia for an undetermined amount of time. They were there with the expressed intent of getting a word from God for the community. So it was each person's responsibility to go and spend time alone with the Lord in search of direction and encouragement and different things that we need from him in order to be able to foster well as a community. So I just want to read this for you, and then I'm just going to close this little part with a prayer. But silence is not an escape from the world, but it is a way of drawing nearer to God within it. In the quiet, we step away from the noise and hurry that fills our minds and hearts. We make room for God, room to listen, to rest, and to be renewed in his presence. Catherine Daugherty reminds us that solitude is never only for ourselves. We go apart so that our hearts can grow wide enough to hold the world in prayer. In silence, we begin to see with God's eyes, to love with his tenderness, and to trust his care in all things. The pustinia, the place of prayer and stillness, is not only a cabin or a desert, but a way of being with God wherever we are. It is a space to surrender where we can let him quiet our hearts and fill us again with his love. So the point that I really want to highlight to you in this is that we ourselves are changed as we are in the pustinia, so that we can take that with us. It now becomes a part of us, this stillness, this silence, that we can now bring that with us into the world. So if you wouldn't mind me just in closing your eyes, we'll just take a moment of prayer just as we continue. So Lord, in the stillness, you wait for me. You ask for nothing more than my presence, my listening, my trust, my heart. Teach me to rest in your silence, to let the noise of the world fall away until all that remains is you. In this quiet place, renew my love for you and for all whom you love. Let my silence become prayer, and let my solitude become communion with your heart. Amen. All right, I am going to just start today by talking to you about a little story. So I've had the question posed to me many times over the years as to how it is that I came to really value silence and solitude in my life. people have asked me, did I grow up Catholic? Is that why I like silence and solitude? And all I can address to you is that I am a little bit of a different Christian in the sense that Chris mentioned that I was baptized here 21 years ago. And about 22 years ago was the first time literally in my life that I had ever stepped foot in a church. I spent 28 years growing up very, very much in the world. I would say that my upbringing was what the classification they call them nuns, N-O-N-E. I did not go to church on Christmas, I did not go to church on Easter. I just lived in the world. I watched The Cosby Show and very much a child of the 70s and the 80s. And so, so about 22 years ago now, I was invited by a friend for the first time to go to church. And I was invited to McKernan, and it was the 6 p.m. service. And so I kind of said, sure, I'll go and give that a try. And I went, and it was really dark. They turned off the lights for the 6 p.m. service. And there was a rock band at the front that was playing music. And I was like, this is church? I've never in my life. And so that began a journey. I ended up attending Alpha. I am a product of the Alpha program, doing its thing, and was blessedly plugged into a young church plant at that time and grew in my faith and in numbers and in experience over the last 22 years. But what I want to talk to you about is that as a part of all of that, I actually became a part of the staff at Twilliger. And I was working in children's ministry, but I had just started to dabble in discipleship. And so I was running some discipleship pieces, but I felt very woefully prepared for that. And so some particular course, I cannot remember what, landed me at Providence Center. And there, the significant thing that happened was I came across a poster that invited me to a day of silence. So I saw this poster, I was just facing my 40th birthday, and I looked at the poster, and on it said, please come to this day of silence, it's on September 22nd. And I thought, September 22nd. September 22nd is my 40th birthday. So I thought, okay, Lord, maybe this will help me deal with the fact that I'm turning 40, I can come, I can spend this time here with you. And so that is what I did. I moved heaven and earth, literally, to get my 3 little people off to the places that they needed to go. I arranged for them to get picked up because the day of silence was going to run from 9 until 4. And all of that happened, and then I hit this moment. I was about to get in the car and drive to the retreat center, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do all day? I thought, I have no idea. What am I doing? Like this sort of panic raised in me, and I walked over to my book shelf, and I just started randomly picking books. I had a backpack open, and I just started throwing things in there because, surely I was going to have time in this 7 hours or so to be able to read 12 books, of course. So I'm there. I now go to the retreat center. I have a lovely little morning prayer. I get sent off to my little room that has a bed and a chair in it. And a few things have happened, and now it's about a half an hour until lunchtime. So I dig into my backpack. I pull out this book called Quiet Places, A Woman's Guide to Personal Retreat. I thought, okay, that was a good one to choose, Anne. This is what I'm doing. Great job. And I sit down on my fabric chair. It's got a little curtain all the way around the bottom. Sit there, and I do one of these. I'm like, is there anything in here for me? I don't know. And as I do that, there's a little bookmark in it, a little piece of paper. It goes flying out, and it falls on the ground, and it goes underneath the skirt. So I'm like, okay, I get out of the chair. I'm now on my hands and knees crawling around on the ground. And this is what I saw. This was the little piece of paper on my 40th birthday. The Lord. It's me. And as I sat there, holding this little scrap of paper, it's only about this big, I had it stuck to my bulletin board, but I had to take a picture of it because I have carried it with me to various places to demonstrate this before, and I always lose it, so. Okay, I've got it now there forever. But the tears just filled my eyes when I saw this little piece of paper that said to me, you know what, Anne, all of those fears you have about turning 40, all of those things, this is when your life is going to begin. Oh, wow, like what a beautiful, tangible gift from the Lord on my very first day of silence. And so that began my journey with doing that. I ended up doing multiple days at the Providence Center. But the other significant thing that happened to me there was I saw a brochure again for a spiritual direction. And I went back to my church and I asked everybody that I knew, have you ever heard of a spiritual director? And everybody said no. Nobody's like, never heard of that, don't know what that is. And so just my personality is, well then I need to find out. And so I hired a spiritual director, I started that journey, I ended up going to spiritual direction school. And all of that built more and more times of silence and solitude into my life until I actually started doing yearly now, 1 week of silence per year. I merge away to Kingsfold and get to spend this week worth of time with the Lord each March. So that's enough about me. I want to now talk about how you can do it. I'm just going to hand this out now. So the first thing I want to say is that a day of silence is really only about 6 hours. Chris, can you testify to that? Right, about 6 hours. Right? And about half an hour of that is eating lunch. So you have some like real activity there. It is an interesting thing to sit with a group of people and to eat with them in silence, but it is really cool. You notice how noisy people are. But it is a very freeing experience to not have to make small talk and to just sit there and enjoy and savor your food. So I'm just going to start, if we can, on the page that says One Day Retreat Guide, Trusting in God's Nearness. So we're just going to walk through this a little bit together. And then where we're going is that on the back side, I've got a suggested rhythm for how you can actually spend a day. Broken down to like half hour, 45-minute periods of time. And we will just walk through that, not in great detail, but just giving you a little bit of highlights of things that you maybe could notice. So a practical note of what to expect at a retreat center. First of all, I just want to deal with, like, if you've never been on a retreat, how do you find a retreat center? So yes, the Catholic Church has given us many great gifts in retreat centers. You do have the Providence Center, which is literally only a few blocks away from here. No? Okay.
It's not open anymore.
It's not? Oh.
The Providence Center's not open anymore?
That's like the Nunnery just now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're,
It wasn't.
I think it's officially, anyways,
Okay.
I think it's closed
Okay.
now, and
The
they
ground
don't
is
know,
still open.
they don't know what they're doing with it. I could be wrong. I thought it was done. Sorry.
Okay.
I take it back. Maybe it's still
They
open.
closed down during COVID,
Right.
but then
I would be wrong.
retreat center and then the retreats, which are still open.
Okay.
I'm back there.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that you would know.
Looks
Sorry,
like
I
you have the
apologize.
phone and look that way.
I
Yeah.
brought it up.
You can check that.
I
Yeah, no
apologize.
problem.
It's okay.
The other retreat center that I have very oftenly frequented and where we held the retreat for Greenfield is at a place called Star of the North. That is in St. Albert. And it's kind of great that it's in St. Albert in the sense that you feel like you're making a little bit of a pilgrimage to get there. You have that kind of 25 to 30 minutes to sort of go through that transition. And it's a beautiful little spot. They have a wonderful grounds to walk around. You're really close to the Sturgeon River there, so you can walk in nature a lot. They have a really, really cool old cemetery that you can walk through and see, people that have been passed away for over 100 years. Just the difference in the tombstones, and just a really fascinating, humbling experience, I would say, looking through that. And then my very favorite place, which is a little bit more of a commitment, I would say, is heading to a place called Kingsfold. And Kingsfold is in Cochrane, Alberta. There you can book yourself in for a private retreat, but if you go on their website, they also have a retreats page, and so they do have an opportunity to enter into guided silent retreats there as well. And that is what I do each March. I do a guided retreat. Well, it's a 1 week in time. So when you arrive in a retreat center, you are given, of course, a collective space to be able to hang out, but we are entering into solitude. And so a part of that is that you are given your own little room. So I don't want you to envision in your mind that you have to sit there and hang out with other people while you're trying to be in silence and solitude all the time. So you have your own little room that has a door on it. It usually has a bed. It has a chair, a desk, so that you have space to just kind of tuck yourself in there. Sleeping while you're on retreat is highly recommended. We all are coming into these spaces very tired usually, and so having naps is 2 thumbs up. Definitely want to do that. So it's nice that you have a bed and a place to be able to lie down and do that. Okay, so let's just take a little look. We'll just meander through this retreat guide quickly. So we are praying when you enter into silence. We are asking for a grace from the Lord. And on this particular retreat that I'm going to give you the suggested rhythm for the day, we are praying to become more aware of God's nearness and to trust His personal care and love for each of us. So just a couple of thoughts to meditate on. He who goes about to reform the world must begin with himself, or he loses his labor. St. Ignatius of Loyola. And without solitude, it is virtually impossible to live a spiritual life. We do not take the spiritual life seriously if we do not set aside time to be with God and to listen to Him. Henry Nouwen. Another book I would really recommend if you are interested in silence and solitude, and that's written by Ruth Haley Barton. And she invites us to consider 3 reasons for solitude. To quiet the noise of our lives so that we can hear from God. To cease the constant striving of our human effort. And to pull away from our absorption in human relationships for a time to focus on our relationship with God. So the purpose of silence and solitude, she says, is just to be with God, to commune with Him on that beyond words level that those who are in love know so well. So we are invited to let go, set aside worries and distractions, and rest in the peace that only God can provide. All right, and moving on to some practical considerations. What we're trying to create here is sacred space and time. So we want to choose a location, indoors or outdoors, stepping away from the home can help focus. I can't emphasize this point more, please, than I'm going to, and that is that everybody thinks I can have a silent retreat at home. It is very, very challenging in our world where we are trained to be productive machines to enter into that silence and solitude and look down at your carpet and see that you haven't vacuumed it in the last 10 days. It is very, very hard to walk into our kitchens to get a glass of water and realize that maybe we could just wipe the counter. Oh, and I forgot to empty the dishwasher. And yes, so I just want to really encourage you, if you're going to take this time, just try and step away, even if that does mean that what you're going to do is go spend an hour outside walking in nature for your time of silence and solitude. Step out of your house. I will say I have hosted a day of silence for a couple in their home before, and they testified to the fact that they pulled it off. They were able to do it with a lot of discipline. So maybe that's you. Maybe you're a highly disciplined person and you can make that happen. But just be aware that this is, we're trying to create something away from our usual life. You can also do this alone or in a group. A group has very beautiful characteristics to it, and one of those things is that when you meet with a group, you typically have a morning prayer time where you would sort of set the intention for your day, and then you would come back together at the end of the day and you would share little pieces of testimony from what you experienced throughout the day. And that is extraordinarily faith-building, to know God is not only just meeting you in the quiet, but he's also meeting your friend, your coworker. So if it's possible to enter into a group retreat, I would highly recommend that, especially when you're beginning. You can find, again, on those different retreat centers that I mentioned, and I'm sure many others, places that they are offering retreats. I wrote on here, start small. Begin with 10 minutes if you're new to silence and gradually increase. I want to just say that with like a big caveat. I think you can do a day. I believe in you. I think a day is where the real juice and magic happens. And so believe in yourself, shoot for the stars. Resist judgment. Be with God in whatever state you are in, trusting it is exactly as it should be. I have been on retreat where literally I climbed into my little bed when I got there at 9:30, and I climbed out of my little bed at 3:30 when I was ready to go home. And all I could testify to in that day was I had a really great nap all day long. That is okay. Probably, well, definitely, I really needed that sleep for some reason. So resist temptation to say, I didn't have this extraordinary experience. It is an extraordinary experience to have the gift of giving ourselves that we were able to sleep. And then the next day, you're ready to enter into other things. So just to say, you might hear from God, you might not. You might get an awesome piece of paper that flies at you that you weren't expecting, and you might not. And all those things are alone. My fourth point here is to expect challenges. Richard Rohr writes, in the silence, all of our usual patterns assault us. That is why most people give up quickly. When Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, the first thing to show up was the wild beasts. Consider writing your worries on a list, placing them in an envelope labeled trust, and setting them aside. So when we get to our schedule part, this is something I really encourage when somebody is beginning on their day. It is to just literally take a piece of loose leaf, just jot down all the things that you're letting go for that day. You're just entrusting that to the Lord. So my first day of silence, my trust list looks something like this. Lord, I just surrender to you my 3 kids, and that Mary Jo is supposed to pick up this child and drive them there, and my husband's supposed to remember to do this, and yeah, and the fact that I don't even know what I'm doing today, just write that down. And then you sit there for a minute, you think, okay, what else? Oh, and I'm trusting to you, Lord, that my dad isn't very well. I worry about that. So I write that down. And whatever else comes to your mind, it might be something as silly as, I worry about what I'm gonna make for supper tonight, or it might be as serious as, my heart is so broken over a betrayal of a friend or a loss in your life. So write it all down on the piece of paper, you fold it all up, and then you write on it trust. Set it aside. You just say a little prayer. Lord, I just trust all of these things to you, that you will take care of all these pieces today while I am here with you. And then, throughout your day, as those little things want to maybe finagle at you a bit, you can just remember to yourself, and tell yourself, nope, I don't need to worry about that thing, because I have trusted that to the Lord. And if something new comes up, you just open up your piece of paper, you write it down, and you close it again. And we're going to remember to thank God, and also to commit to repeat. This point is very, very important. Okay, we're going to meet, we made the decision. We're going to go on our first day of silence in December. December 15th is my day going. Now I want you to skip forward in your calendar, and I want you to look at February. Okay, I'm also going to go on another day of silence in February. I want you to schedule that at the same time while you're there. And then really want the gold star, I want you to flip forward 2 more months. I want you to schedule yourself a day. We will, again, be very inclined to just judge our first experience, and it's really through the repetitive action of going into silence that we begin to see some of the beautiful fruit that God will have for us. So, before you even begin, just commit to repeat. All right. Also, kind of funny but true, wear a watch. Most people do not wear watches anymore because we all have our phones. But guess what? We're not going to have our phone. So if you could have a watch, if you could have a timer of some sort with you so that you can be able to set the timer for when you're doing things like praying and journaling, that can be helpful. And then I want to encourage you to make sure that you give your family or people that might need to get a hold of you the number of the retreat center you're going to. We're going to kick it very old school here. They will not be able to get a hold of you on your phone. So, for that emergency situation that we've created in our mind that might happen, we want to give the people that we love the phone number to the retreat center so that they can phone the retreat center and somebody at the retreat center can come and get you if your child really, in fact, ends up in the emergency room or you need to be gathered. All right, well, that was a lot. So let's just all get our windows out just a little bit. And then I wanted to just talk a little bit about the suggested rhythm for our day. And I'll just apologize right off the cuff here that the font on this thing is really small, but I was trying to get it all on one page. So I'm going to, again, this is a beautiful picture here. This is where we're going to go on retreat. We're going to go hang out in some foothills. And Jesus is inviting us to come away with him. So I just want to invite you to let's just use our imaginations a little bit here. Because I want to walk you through a little bit of what it would feel like to actually show up at a retreat center and what you can imagine. I'm going to use Kingsfold because it's awesome. So can everybody just sit back in your chair, close your eyes. I'm going to ask you to use that faculty of imagination that God has given us to be able to play out little movies in our minds. Some of us are better at this than others, but we'll just ask the Holy Spirit to come, sanctify our imaginations, help us to see what He would want us to see. And I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself in a very familiar place, first of all, and that is sitting in the driver's seat of your car. So I want you to just imagine in front of you, you've got the wheel, maybe to your right, you've got your drink holder, and I want you to look over and notice that in that drink holder you've got maybe your favorite drink, and it's empty, you've drank it all. And then I want you to look over and see your Google Maps on your phone, however you use that. It's been taking you this day to a new unknown territory. So our imagination exercise is this. You pull up to the retreat center and you're feeling a bit anxious and more than ready to get out of the car after the 3-hour drive. You are not entirely sure where to go, but the rugged wooden signs that have said King's Fold have safely guided you and your car to its parking spot for the week ahead. You turn off the engine. Google Maps finally falls silent after announcing you've arrived. The music that you were enjoying fades away. It's quiet now. You've arrived. You glance at your phone one last time to send that final text. I arrived, and I'll talk to you in a week. Gulp. Then you power it off, and you slide it into the car door. You notice a flicker of feeling as you do. Maybe hesitation, maybe relief, but you brush it aside. You have somewhere to be, and it's time to get going. And now I just want to move this picture to now you're sitting in a circle, mostly with strangers. Maybe you know one person in the room. And your spiritual guide is there to present to you some helpful thoughts about the place, what you will be doing. And you come to look at a potential schedule for your day. And so I just want you to continue to hold that space, that's where you are, as we just walk through this suggested rhythm for the day. So I'll just invite you now to open your eyes again, but still know in your heart you're there, you're heading into this day of silence. So this might feel a little bit unusual, I guess, to think about scheduling your time when you're going into spending a day with Jesus. I would just say that it is very helpful, again, particularly when we are beginning this journey, to have some rhythms throughout our days. So that's why I call this suggested rhythms, not suggested schedule, not going to live and die by every second on the clock, but just that we want to lay out for ourselves a little bit of a sense of how we're going to walk this all out. So I'm just going to point out a few things. We talked about some of them. So the first thing is just to prepare your heart. So we want to take a few minutes to just orientate ourselves to our surroundings, and then we want to plan our schedule and we want to do our trust list. So again, just loosely jotting down where are we going. Your retreat leader or yourself can bring in some thoughts about what kind of scriptures you want to sit with throughout that day. I usually recommend choosing 2 or 3 scriptures that you're going to pray with throughout the day. And so that's the first thing we're going to do. So we're just going to do our trust list, set that aside, and then we're going to enter into our first prayer time. So I mentioned that our grace that we were looking for today in this retreat was trusting in God's nearness. And so I've just given you some suggested scriptures there that you can do if you would like. Isaiah 43, 1-7, I have called you by name, you are mine. And so we would be slowly praying over these verses. And this is where it's helpful to set a timer. So I'm going to suggest to you that this whole prayer time that you're sitting with this is about 45 minutes. And I would like you to consider taking 30 minutes to sit with the scripture and 15 minutes to journal. And I don't want you to overlap those 2 activities. So we're going to trust that the thoughts that seem extraordinarily brilliant to us as we go praying them, that the Holy Spirit will bring them back to mind to us in our 15 minutes of journaling. We do not have to quickly write that down. We don't want to interrupt that flow of the time of spending the prayer time with Jesus. So I have a question or 2 there. Who is God for me? How does God see me? So if you actually set a timer for 30 minutes, what's going to happen is you're going to read your scripture, you're going to sit with the questions, and then you're going to look down at your timer and you're going to realize you still have 27 minutes to go. Happens every time, happens to me all the time, and then you're going to go, okay, and then you're going to turn it over and you're going to be, okay, and then you're going to sit there again. And this is probably going to repeat itself multiple times throughout that, and that is totally okay, totally normal. I just want to encourage you to stay with it. You will be amazed at what will come through if you just stay with that activity. And then as that timer ends, I just want to encourage you again to set a timer for 15 minutes, and then just sit with the Lord. What does he want to say? What do you need to remember from that time? And just write and write. And you might end up just closing your journal at some point, and that's fine. We just want to sit there and wait. And as important as the prayer times are, we also need the importance of taking a break. So take a short walk, enjoy a cup of coffee, breathe in gratitude, find something that strikes you as beautiful, and just look at it. We don't do beauty enough in our culture. So just being in a beautiful landscape is very, very helpful. The one beautiful thing about Kingsfold is they have animals that live on the property. So they have a golden retriever that just hangs out and is so friendly. They have a few cats, and yeah, there you can just go and be amongst the animals, and that feels great. So I think that is mostly what I want to say. Again, just emphasizing the point of sleep is great. We eat meals, again, in quiet. And if you would like, an addition that you can add to your day over time is adding a spiritual director. So the various retreat centers will probably have a spiritual director. If you have a spiritual director already, you can Zoom them in and you can do a session with them while you're there. That works great. Please look for guided retreats. Those are very helpful. And then as you get some practice with all of this, just consider extending your time. And also, as always, life is better when we do it in community. So make sure you bring a friend with you. Testify to others how silence and solitude has affected your life. Yeah, so I think that I've talked and talked, used up all of our time, but I would love to answer any questions